Hey listeners, it's Mallory Wilsey, Chief Producer of the Enrollify Network, and I want to take just a moment to tell you about another show on Enrollify that I know you'll love. The Hidden Gem is a new show hosted by Maya Demishkovich, CMO at Carroll Community College. This podcast is dedicated to empowering community college presidents, leaders, and marketing and communication professionals with the knowledge and insights that you need to harness the full potential of strategic marketing and communications within your institution. New episodes drop every other Monday, and you can subscribe to the show by visiting podcast.enrollify.org or just search for The Hidden Gem wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome to the Hired Geek Podcast, where we explore the impact of EdTech on the student experience with engaging, fun, and relevant conversations that honor the wide range of work happening all across the higher ed ecosystem. I'm your host, Dustin Ramsdell, Community Engagement Lead at Pathify. Join me every week for discussions with some of the best minds in education technology. The Hired Geek Podcast is a proud member of the Enrollify Podcast Network, a robust collection of shows designed to help higher education professionals like you grow every day. Explore all of our other shows at enrollify.org or check out some of my personal favorites linked in the show notes below. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered all-in-one student engagement platform helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. Welcome back, everybody, to another wonderful episode of the Hired Geek Podcast. So we are here with an episode. If you're kind of sensing, places and time here, this is the first week of March. I just got home from South by Southwest EDU, so likely see some episodes that are recorded there in the feed in the near future. But we are here now with Dr. Jen King from Bisk Education. I think it'd be kind of an interesting conversation looking, just generally in sort of the space of like private-public partnerships in higher education, specifically in kind of digital education and lots of other things. But I think we're in kind of a very interesting moment in the space of where we're seeing kind of I feel like kind of a maturation of like, a lot of these programs and partnerships, and sort of just the space has been around and kind of gotten a lot more awareness, obviously, over the past few years since the pandemic. So, it's part of my background as well. I kind of came up in ed tech through this space. So certainly holds a special place in my heart. And I'm excited to talk about it with you. So Jen, if you want to introduce yourself, kind of your background, and then we'll get into more of your role and what Bisk does.
Thank you, Dustin, and it's exciting to be here today. My name is Dr. Jen King. Please call me Jen. I am the Vice President of Workforce and Education for Bisk. And I've been with Bisk for 6 years, but I'm proud to say I just celebrated my 30th year in higher education. So Dustin, like you, I'm a higher ed geek, although my friends like to call me the higher ed diva.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. But 30 years in education, and 26 of those have been strictly higher ed, 4 years in K-12. But literally, I've been, around the block. I've seen everything in higher ed. So I'm a former tenured professor, a former academic dean. I led a teaching and learning center for a number of years, started my own company, helping colleges and universities move programs online. And I did that for about 8 years before I met Bisk. And I actually was working with a college in the Northeast. They were on a call with Bisk Education, and I was asked to stay on that call and help them navigate this conversation with what they called an OPM. They didn't know what that was. And I said, sure, I'll stay on. And I helped, negotiate that conversation. But the person at Bisk said, hey, Dr. King, can you stay on? Can you, we'd like to talk to you a little bit more. Come to find out, they were looking for someone with my skill set to help them, work in this OPM space. And so that was in 2018. It was a nice fit. I moved right into my role at Bisk. I started as a program manager, and here we are 6 years later in workforce and education. So that's sort of my background in, who I am as the VP of Workforce and Ed. Really, what I do at Bisk is I serve, the best way to describe my role is I'm like a liaison to our academic partners, but also our industry partners. So it's my job on the Bisk side to really work with the universities to help them with their online programming, right? And, from degrees, certificates, and now a thing we call micro credentials. But I have to match those programs with what the need is in industry. I have to look at my business partners and my industry partners and say, are we building a program that you need, that fits in your realm, that we will actually graduate students who come out with the skills that they need, to meet the needs that you have in your organization. So that's literally the intersection of what I call industry and academics, and that's my role, that intersection.
Yeah, and I think that'll be kind of the interesting sort of through line and kind of wrinkle to this conversation is the idea of like the work that, yeah, many would just kind of, lumped into kind of the same world of like OPMs or something. But I know, yeah, given your role and the idea of tying strategy across all those stakeholders more kind of cohesively around workforce development, because I think just my observations of the space is at times there's sort of like vanity programs or something, whether it's for the institution or for the provider or for both, where it's just like, oh, we just want to like put a notch in our belt and say we have the number one blank program in the country or something, or this institution just like wants to push that to get more growth because maybe it is like a,
That's
a
right.
pricier program or something. I don't know, but so I think it is really just smart for all those stakeholders to be like you're saying, trying to liaison and keep a very clear, consistent line of communication around what what programs are we launching? How are we maybe like even like marketing them, I imagine, just like
Yes,
how are we trying to
yes.
speak to this audience, So before we get too far too ahead of ourselves, if you do kind of just want to summarize that work that Bisk is doing with universities, just to kind of capture it in your own words.
Yeah, Bisk has been around since 1971, and we are a small privately owned, what we call an online program management company. Nathan Bisk launched the company over 50 years ago. And literally, I think in our organization, I like to refer to Nathan as like the grandfather of online ed because he really started this idea of distance education with cassette tapes, and then he moved to DVDs, and then he said, "Oh, there's this thing called distance ed. Let's see if we can put this on online." And that was a new thing in 1996. And here we are in 2024. We're still going strong. We're still growing our portfolio. We have always believed, even from Nathan to today with his son as the CEO, Mike Bisk, we want education to be an opportunity for everyone. We want it to be affordable. We want it to be accessible. And so we've really gone out over the years to work with great tier one university programs. Our goal has always been the degree, master's, bachelor's degrees, and then we built in a series of certificates as well. But the goal is educational opportunity, making it available and accessible to everyone. And that meant online education. And then you had the pandemic, right? So then everybody moved online. So now you have a group of universities and colleges, faculty, deans who think, well, we're online. Like we're already online because of the pandemic. Well, are you really online? You just threw everything in a learning management system because you had to. Now Bisk is in the process of looking and working with universities to sharpen what they're doing online. And then I would say, in addition to that, we provide all of those traditional services of what we would call the traditional OPM, instructional design services, student success, and student support. We provide marketing services and market research. And then we've launched just this past June a new product addressing workforce education, which is Bisk Amplified. That is what I work on, today is Bisk Amplified. And that is literally we've created a marketplace of all of our university opportunities, a place where our workforce can go with their employee benefits, take a look at our offerings, and potentially even receive discounts if they, come through the Bisk Amplified portal. So it is a marketplace. It has all of our educational opportunities. We're looking for more universities who want to partner with us in this space. They have great programs, existing programs, but they want a broader audience, potentially industry and corporate minded. Come to Bisk Amplified. That is like one of our new directions, our pivot in 2024.
Yeah, and I think that is an interesting thing where I feel like I saw sort of like trickles of different folks kind of like maybe dabbling and all that, but I'd imagine the story of the next few years is just like more kind of wholehearted embracing of that kind of strategy across the board, like, because it obviously requires sort of both of those parties to be involved, like folks with a benefit that want to, help streamline the usage of it for folks'
Mm-hmm.
education, and then the universities that want to kind of cater to that audience, I guess. But yeah, I think it's really just interesting, just the long running history and just going through a historical moment too, like just like I feel like the impacts that would have on your all strategy, and just like recognizing, I guess, sort of the needs of the moment now, where that idea of you can't just maybe kind of, oh, we threw this one program online, we did this or that, like, because again, yeah, it might have been vanity, or it might have just been like, well, that's our one best one, so let's just do that and then we'll kind of be done with it. Or yeah, just dumping everything in our LMS and calling that an online kind of experience. It's like, how are you developing a online education strategy of sort of like getting maybe certainly as much available online, or the right stuff online than the right stuff in person, or kind of trying to get maybe the best of both worlds, and also creating a supportive kind of infrastructure for those students too, I feel like is yeah, I mean, there's a lot to it. So I think, yeah, it's just
Yeah.
more complicated than a lot of people would probably assume, like you said, right? Just the
Yeah.
idea like, oh, we have online courses, like, that's just stuff in an LMS, right? That's
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. And I would say too, you talk about the vanity programs, I call them sweetheart programs. That's my job. I go to the university and they have this great sweetheart program, and they believe in it. They support it. But my job is to help that university look at that program and align it to workforce needs or job acquisition, right? I I cannot help you create a program that isn't going to lead to jobs, right? Or skills that lead to jobs. So that's kind of the direction where we want to move in. I believe wholeheartedly in degrees. I mean, I have a PhD, right? And I believe that education and bachelor's and master's degrees, even PhDs, literally change the trajectory of people's lives. I get it. It changed mine, and it changed our trajectory generationally, right? For my family going forward, for my community going forward. That's so important. Now I want to see the shift in those universities and colleges thinking, okay, what is my real goal here? Is it to just graduate graduates? Or am I feeding the workforce? Am I meeting the demand of the workforce and industry? Am I creating a talent pipeline from my university program into industries? And that is the shift, right? Because historically, we've been thinking about one audience, which is the adult learner who graduates from high school at 18 and goes to college, or graduates at 21 from a bachelor's degree and is looking for a master's program. There's this whole world out there of people that say, I'm not sure I want to invest 4 years in a bachelor's degree or another 2 years in a master's degree. And I'm not even sure I want to get in the debt first, but second, am I going to get any return on that investment? Am I going to get a job, after I do all of this? So there's this whole other audience, Dustin, of folks who are in workforce who want to change their trajectory. They want a new career pathway, and the way to do it is through upskilling and reskilling. And they don't want to spend a lot of money, and they don't want to sacrifice a lot of time. It's time and money. It's always those two things. What can we offer that group of adult learners that is going to help them move forward in their trajectory? It's probably a broader, wider, more diverse audience than our traditional 18-year-old or our traditional 21-year-old, right?
Mhm.
Or even our traditional 30-year-old who goes back to school to get a master's degree or a PhD. It's a larger audience, and it's a more diverse group of people that we should also be seeking to assist in changing their futures through education.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's like the idea of the nuance of uh, kind of trying to empower institutions to think about, not just like what programs you're offering or, uh, things like that, but like the, trying to break down the learning inside, like, because I could just
Yeah.
get a more, clear on ramp where it's just like, I'm not ready to make that full commitment. I may just want to take one graduate level course, but it'd be great to know that that can get me towards a certificate, which gets me towards a degree, and just have a lot of options. Because I feel like, yeah, that's sort of the paradigm where we were,
Right.
say, prior to the pandemic, so like 5+ years ago, or whatever, was that there was like expansion into a lot of great, digital education programs, but there was sort of just like kind of these binaries or something. It's kind of like, well, you're either going to get like a full graduate degree or a full doctorate degree, and that's pretty much it. Like, you kind of don't have a lot of other choices. So like, yeah, there probably
Right.
were people that were just very ill served. So it's now, there's just much more availability, but it's nice to see that there's a lot more choice and optionality around now, or it could be, there's the way that you're studying, if it's, shorter self-paced courses, or, fully asynchronous or partially synchronous, or, yeah, short courses and certificates and all that good stuff. So I just like that there's kind of that broadening, because yeah, it does, create more access, and that hopefully, that just that implicit acknowledgement by the institution of like, okay, we should provide a wide variety of sort of, time lengths and costs and whatever else, and that is guided by, uh, how can we do right by our, kind of external community partners, and all that, to make sure that these are skills and everything. Because it could even be where it's like, okay, well, I took like a 9 credit certificate. It's like, is this even time well spent? Because like, is this giving me anything that like the market wants? Or, because it could even be just like, you don't even do like this drastic redesign. It's like, if you have like a wide library of like, uh, courses and programs for people, it's like, we just have to make that more clear. And like, because I think that's also another paradigm, is that like, it's been traditionally where it's like, it's on me as the student to kind of discern, like, so what did I learn? Like, how can I translate that, and like, make that clear in like an interview or something for a job, like, with all of that to be said, I mean, I feel like that's all kind of the, uh, just a bit of the kind of the table stakes, and just sort of generally, Bisk's approach. So I think if you, this is sort of the hot button question, if you want to kind of, your hot take here, the OPM space, I feel like it's going through a bit of a shakeup and disruption, sort of existential, identity crisis, whatever you want to call it, for a number of reasons. It's generally just the tech sector in this country has kind of been getting kind of a reckoning, but right sizing, I guess, maybe I would say too. But, how, just with your reflections, how has Bisk kind of differentiated its strategy? Because I think that, again, to me, certainly a role like yours, that sort of embrace of like anchoring everything around like workforce development, workforce education, everything is certainly, like I said, like a really strong north star, I guess, to guide the work. Like, do you feel like something like that is a way that you feel like you've always tried to kind of go, with a different
Yes.
direction?
Well, I'll say first and foremost, I am super proud of the work that Bisk has done over the years, and I want to make that very clear. I know OPM has we're in a conflicted place right now, but on the Bisk side, we are not conflicted. We know what we do every day for our university partners, and quite frankly, we know that we've helped universities get online and develop quality online programs. That's our has always been our goal. We have done it transparently. We've done it professionally with high quality. So I'm going to state that first and foremost, right? But the second thing is we are nimble enough, we're small enough and nimble enough and scrappy, I like to say, to pivot when we need to pivot. And we are going to pivot. We are looking at what is that other audience or audiences, right? Plural, that we need to also tap into to give them those same educational opportunities that we've provided our customers for 50 plus years. And in that pivot, what we're thinking of is that group of workforce, as we've mentioned. You talked about looking at new ways of doing things at the university level. You've probably heard the stackable certificates, the stackable credential. We're leaning into that as well, where every degree program that I help to launch through Bisk, I want to make sure we provide the subsequent breadcrumbs, if you will, to that degree. Not everybody is really willing to to start with that degree? What can I give them as a teaser, as a carrot, or I like to say the breadcrumb trail? That would be your certificates. And those certificates have to stack into that degree. So I want to provide certificates that either allow for credit for prior learning, or there's an assessment for prior learning, or there's some credit waiver that if you complete the certificate, it literally wedges into that degree and you're a little further into that degree because you started with a certificate, right? And then this term, the other pivot is the micro credential. And I want to talk about that micro credential because this is a new product that Bisk is really going to, we're doubling down on the idea of a micro credential because of the needs of our corporate and industry partners. The micro credential is a skills based certificate. Most of the time your certificate is, it's very low stakes. You learn content, you answer questions, you take an assessment, you move on to the next module, and so on and so forth. And then you get a certificate of completion that is branded with a logo from our university. And yay, it looks great on my resume. And I still support the certificate. But the micro credential is a different animal altogether. A micro is skills based. It is Bisk looking at what are the needs in the job market, what are the skills gap in the job market, and then creating a product around those skills. So once I know what the skills gaps are, Dustin, I look in our university partner portfolio and I go, oh, well, those skills are right there. It's the degree we created for you 10 years ago. You've got all those skills. You call it a degree. Let's extract those skills, make a smaller product, what we call micro learning. Let's make sure that it is affordable. Let's make sure that it's asynchronous. So you have flexibility to do it, to complete it. Let's make sure that it leads to some industry certification, right? So it's got to be certification based or industry based. In other words, if you complete this micro credential, you are prepared to sit for that industry certification exam, right? So it's a completely different product. It is skills based focus. It says to the industry, we've heard you. We are going to create a product that is wrapped around your needs, right? You have all these job openings for this particular job role. Let me create a product for you that will actually train, upskill, or reskill your employees so that they can fill that job role for you, right? And it also is it tells the university, listen, still have your degree and we can still have that certificate, but let's also, from the same content that we've created, let's create this micro that will support a whole different audience. And we can leverage that to create a talent pipeline into especially some of our key industries that are sorely, sorely needing that workforce development, like healthcare and cyber, right? Let's do that intentionally and let's do that proactively together. Industry, university, and BIS together doing it.
Hey, it's Mallory. Exciting news! I'm hosting the Engage Summit in Raleigh on June 25th and 26th, and I'd love to meet you there. Together, we'll dive into the mind of the modern student, what fires them up, how they interact, and what they expect in today's digital age, and how tools like AI help put them in the driver's seat of their education. We have some terrific speakers, including our closing keynote, New York Times bestselling author Jeff Selingo. Sessions will dig into practical ideas and innovative strategies to get your team more student-centered and ready to adopt AI. And many of your favorite Enrollify hosts are presenting too, like Jamie Hunt, Jenny Lee Fowler, and Brian Gross. Use the discount code Enrollify50 for an extra $50 off your registration. Learn more and register at engage.element451.com. We can't wait to see you there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess like what it makes me think of is like, yeah, like this is like the smallest morsel, the way to sort
Yes.
of like package, sort of just education delivery and everything. And that like, yeah, we've had sort of the peak of like a, multi-year long credential, like that's sort of the one end of the spectrum. And now kind of fleshing out all the way down to the smallest piece of it. And that, um, it can both live, I feel like, independently or within, like, if you did say, like, I'm going to do the certificate program, like, it's that idea that, like, you get kind of milestone
Right.
sort of benchmarks along the way. And just like it just feels to me like the initial idea of like a MOOC from at this point
Yes.
over 10 years ago, like it's just this, it's like it's growing up, that idea of like a completely asynchronous, like you just sign up to learn about like project management. And we've seen that like platforms have kind of incorporated, okay, like cool, you want to just take this one little thing on project management, it is actually a part of this whole certificate, which is a part of a whole, like they, that is just across the board just what I think is so smart to do, and really be trying to, like you said, like work
Yes.
in tandem with those various stakeholders to keep moving towards that. Because I think it's just, there's a lot, there's always going to be new different skills coming up, so you have to kind of keep up with it. And then just the idea of like maintaining what is out there and popular and still relevant, so you have to kind of keep updating things as well. So much sort of opportunity around, yeah, that diversification of your kind of digital education portfolio, but then just that idea of like communities all around the country. But it's just, there's a place for like a national scale and these big players, certainly to make an impact here, but then just sort of that, those like local communities to kind of really kind of focus in. And it might be that there's something just like super niche and specific, to that area that you could still kind of build around. But it's just this timeline of people kind of dabbling in this space, and now we're sort of fitting it in to a broader strategy. And that like I feel like I've seen some people I know working a lot in this space, but I think it's still kind of in like a simmering thing. And it's
It
like,
is.
so I think, yeah, we'll see more from this for sure over the next like, year or so.
Yeah, it's kind of like the wild, wild west, honestly, because there's really no rhyme or reason. You can call it a certificate, you can call it a micro credential. I have fought around the block, okay, with people about the difference between the two. Literally, you can say whatever you want it to be, it can be. That's where we're at with this topic. But Bisk, as an organization, is saying that a micro credential is skills based. And then you mentioned the MOOC, right? I want to also talk about that because I want to differentiate Bisk from the MOOC. The difference between Bisk and the MOOC approach is that Bisk is going to build the micro out of the content of the degree. The micro credential should be breadcrumb trails into a certificate, into a degree. That is the difference. That whatever, when we build a micro credential, we're going to make sure that it aligns either in credits or credit waivers to the academic content so that we're not only giving individuals a career pathway, we're going to give them a college pathway. We want them to get excited about going on in their education. Now, they may not continue on with a degree, but I'm at least giving them the breadcrumb trails to that degree so that they can change their college pathway as well. And you mentioned too, you graduate with this degree, and years ago, decades ago, you get this degree, right? And you go to your employer and they say, okay, check, you got a bachelor's degree, come and work for me. The truth is that employer has found out that it takes them another year and about 100K to onboard that person because they don't have the skills. Like, they learned the content and they had the outcomes from the program, the degree, but they didn't learn the skills. So they have to spend a year teaching that person the skills, right? That's what I'm talking about. It is helping the university identify those skills in their programs, making sure that we're building something that is going to lead to jobs and job acquisition. And then out of that same product, Dustin, we create this micro because we know that there are employees sitting in the chairs, in the seats, in those lifts at that in that industry, in that employer's office, in their plant, right? Who would love to change the trajectory of their lives. So we have someone that just graduated and comes to that employer, but we have employees sitting in that building that are going, gosh, I really want to go northward to my North Star. Employer, what can you give me to help me change my trajectory, to help me grow in my profession, and maybe even grow in my education? So I wanted to paint that picture. It's a beautiful story if you think about it. And that is literally how we want to pivot as an OPM. We're going to continue building great programs anyone that needs that full service, all those skills and services, from Bisk that you have traditionally needed because you can't build an online program and launch it and market it all by yourself. We're still going to do that. But we are also, each time we do that with you as a university, we're thinking about that other person who wants to use those skills that we can build for you to push you into those degrees. We want to be about both, right? And that's what Bisk Amplified is. It's about amplifying yourself, amplifying your future, not just degrees, but certificates, micros, doing it in a very intentional way. That is our mission.
It's an important one. It's a necessary one. And I think just that idea of like any of like the MOOC platforms, I feel like have had to make such a like sort of seismic identity shift and everything, because it's
Yes.
just like, yeah, because like, and that was like the beauty of it at first, is just like, oh, we just like, put up whatever you want and build whatever you want. And I think there was
Yeah.
like, just stuff on there like taught by a faculty member but not really like integrated in any substantial way, and they've kind of worked toward exactly what you're saying. And I think I've had to probably make sure that they uh, do a lot around to kind of change people's minds around what people thought of them before. But I think it's, we all benefit with that being more of what I feel like the ecosystem looks like, versus just being like people, for lack of a better term, I guess, like waste their time taking certain courses or things that just like aren't, integrated and all that. So um, I guess I'll ask this kind of question that sort of gets to like an aspect of all this. I'll just be curious your take, because I think, certainly efforts in this area did not just pop up right alongside like online learning. Community colleges, a lot of folks have learned in person over the decades, various like workforce skills. But there's an aspect of this where I do feel like, online learning specifically is supporting workforce development in a unique way. So how do you see that kind of playing out of like, online learning's role here? Like, how does it maybe uh, support like workforce development in different areas more so than if you were to do it in person, or just certainly I'm at, just expanding access, I guess. But
Yeah, I think that is the secret sauce for workforce development. Online learning means anytime, anywhere, anyway, right? And the number where there's two requests from workforce when it comes to educational opportunities, and that is time and that is money. I need to be able to afford it, or I need my employer to help me pay for it.
mhm.
And I need it to not kill me in terms of time commitment because I'm a mom or a dad, or I'm taking care of my parents, or I have a full-time job, or I'm working two jobs. So I have to do this online. Don't ask me to show up in a synchronous session with everybody else that's in this product, in this course, because I don't have time for that. I can't meet with you every two times a week at 7 p.m. I need to do it on my own time. I need to be able to do it around the flexibility of my schedule and my needs. So online is crucial. And I say to higher education, I'm going to say it to those listening and even to those that I work with on a regular basis. Look, if you are requiring your audience, I'm talking about the adult learner, age 22 and up, if you're requiring them to come to your university to sit in your classroom and consume education, you are shooting yourself in the foot. That's the only way I could describe it. You're requiring something that, especially since after COVID, or we're still in COVID, we know we can do this without having to show up on campus. So the most strategic thing you can do for the workforce, literally for your adult learning audience as a whole, is to move online. Is to make it available, accessible, anytime, anywhere, laptop, desktop, mobile phone. I should be able to access my educational opportunity on my phone. That's key. That's number one. And then the other thing is the cost, making sure that that the person can afford it, making sure that it's affordable, whether it's through their own means, whether they have to finance it, or they leverage their employee benefits to consume it. So to me, those are the two distinct aspects of workforce development. And online has to happen. It has to be fully online, if not self-paced, if not asynchronous.
Yeah. Well, and I think, yeah, like online learning is uniquely capable of sort of enabling those goals
Right.
around like, time and cost. Cause I think the idea of something being able to be self-paced, it's like you get done as long or
Yeah.
as long or as short as you want it to be, like
Right.
you're on your own timeline. Like I remember working with students a lot and they're like, oh, I want to make sure I finish on time, and it's like, it's up to you, buddy. Like you're on your schedule. So that idea is like,
Right.
if you have other obligations but you want to not just totally kind of stall out, it's like, let's figure out a plan to do that. And online learning is
Right.
a bit more capable of doing that, where you might just have stuff sort of, you can take whatever courses whenever you want. Because I think like teaching, sometimes it's like, well, the one person who teaches that is only here, in the
Right.
fall. That's when
I
they teach it. And if you can't get here on Thursday nights, then, you're sort of out of luck and stuff. So I think, that, and that idea that I think the ability to scale it as well, if you do it the right
Yes.
way, that can help with cost versus maybe just totally getting like dollar signs in your eyes. It's like, yes, I mean, you're going to make sure you cover your costs of like facilitating it, but then also like, do it kind of intentionally with the idea of, uh, expanding access without sacrificing quality and all that. It's just, I don't know. It
Yes.
just changes all those dynamics, I guess. Like it can empower you as an institutional leader to think differently about the audience that you're able to reach, the size of that
Right.
audience, and all that. So yeah, I think that it's definitely a unique kind of catalyst for uh, yeah, just creating more workforce development.
Yeah, and
Um,
if I can say add to that, I think, I was talking to a university yesterday, and they are literally at a crossroad because they're a small private university, and brick and mortar has been everything for the small privates. Like our landscaping, our buildings, our fountains, our sidewalks. We have cute little banners that swing on the light poles throughout the community that our university sits in. Like brick and mortar is everything. Their enrollments are tanking, okay, because we are in a society where we students cannot come to the brick and mortar. They don't want to go to the brick and mortar. Now there are, I agree. I think the 18, 19, 20 year olds want to go to brick and mortar. They want the university experience, the football games, the Greek system and all of that. Okay, fine. But there's a vastly greater population, right? They're not interested in your fountains, and they're not interested in your conference rooms and your swimming pool and your gym. I can go on and on and on. Your sidewalks, that are logo painted all the way, to the mayor's office of your community. They don't care about that. They want you, they want your degree, they believe in your institution, they want your brand, they want your programs, right? But they want it on their terms. And that is the truth of the matter. There's just no ands, ifs, or buts about it. So Bisk wants to help those universities move in that direction. And we want to, in addition to that, take that degree opportunity and bring it to the skills place where we can help another audience, which is our workers, our people that want to change their lives, right? So I just wanted to say that this everyone's at a crossroads, Dustin. I'm telling you, we're at a fork in the road, the proverbial fork in the road. And the
mhm.
truth of the matter is, we've got universities, especially the small privates. There are some of these universities, they will not be around in a decade. They will not, they have not, they don't know that they have to make a left turn instead of a right turn right now. They will not be here in 5, 10, 15 years. And that is the truth. So you have to pivot, and you have to pivot now.
That sort of like sense of urgency, or obviously just like your passion for trying to help guide, these institutions towards where they need to go. Like definitely was my next question, that idea of like what's on the horizon. On one side it is that like, these institutions, if they're just going to stick with the status quo, are going to be on a very tough journey. Hopefully they survive and thrive, but like likely, yeah, like ones who are just on such a thin margin, are going to get towards closure or needing to be acquired, whatever. But I think, if you keep up with a lot of the headlines around online education lately, um, you know, it, it is obviously sticking around. And we are seeing that, like, even if an institution who is having like declining enrollment, online enrollment is growing. And that growth is being increasingly powered by even like 18 to 22-year olds, where they want to do courses online. And I think, I'm sure what's happening is that like students are coming to campus for some of that, like the building the social capital, that sort of environment, while taking, some combination of their courses online because it's just going to work better for, their schedule or their preferences, because it's that idea where like, yeah, I'd probably want to like meet with a tutor in person, or yeah, be a part of these clubs or do different things, in person, and utilize some of the resources that they have and different tools. But like, if I'm taking like English 101 or something, like certain courses, like depending on where they're at, they're like, I've always done pretty well with these kind of courses. I feel pretty strong as a writer. Like I'll just, take that course online. And, um, then there's other courses. If you're taking a science with lab, it might be like, well, we'll do some of the instruction online, or, you've got the course in the LMS, but then like we do need to like come in person and utilize resources that are here on campus. And that's part to me of like the equalizing factor that an institution should be providing, is that, if you're a student here, we give you everything you need. And that applies whether it's online or in person. So it's just going to like, there'll always be a place to an extent for those kind of physical resources. But I think, the idea of like those things being the compelling reason why a student would choose an institution is going to be like, well, it's very much going to depend. I think just the further expansion of the micro credentials, more sort of alignment with workforce needs and everything, and just better digital education opportunities and different modalities and everything. So certainly, if you want to speak more kind of with a final thought here of what the future holds, or just kind of a final call to action to wrap up this episode, the floor is yours.
Yeah, the call to action is Bisk amplified. Is amplify your potential. It is literally, we're taking everything I said today and we're putting it in this beautiful marketplace called Bisk Amplified. We've developed all this great quality content with a number of university partners, but we're bringing other partners into Bisk Amplified. These would be non-university partners. They have great content, and we want to feed the world, right, with a skills-based approach to education. But I think the call to action is universities out there that are looking to shift, whether initially to move online, or if you hear what I'm saying and it resonates and you want to take a skills-based approach to feeding the workforce, look me up. I'm on LinkedIn. Call me, text me, because we want to help you do that. And then when we do that, we're going to bring you into Bisk Amplified, because that is, like I said, that is the marketplace. It's the front door to great educational opportunities. And Bisk Amplified, we support our network partners. These are our partnerships that we have with corporate entities that have employee benefits. So they have access to Bisk Amplified for their employees. We have great channel partnerships. These are organizations and associations that have affiliates, right? And our channel partners are pushing this to their affiliates, right, for exposure. And then the last partner is the academy partner in Amplified. This is where, if there are universities or colleges out there that want to bring their content into the Amplified marketplace and have Bisk push it out to our network, we want you to come. I'm looking for great content to add to Amplified. Quite, frankly, I'm looking for healthcare. I'm looking for cyber. I'm looking for AI and blockchain, and I'm looking for unique content, as well as what do we need to upskill and reskill our workforce. I'm looking for that content as well. And if you don't have it, but you think it's in your degree, I can help you build it. I'm happy to talk to you and show you how we extract that out of your degree and build something brand new for your university called a micro credential. So I'll toss it back to you, Dustin.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a good call to action, just making yourself available. And I think just, yeah, recognizing like wherever you're at, if this is
Wherever you're
something that's sort
at.
of like on your mind, will help you get to where you need to be. Because I think that's something that is kind of like a important part of this like moment of kind of digital transformation and, sort of the skills based revolution, is that like institutions are at all different places with this movement. So good partners kind of helping shepherd the way and get folks moving towards where they need to be is really great. And I guess, just making yourself so available is also much appreciated as well. Because, we'll definitely have ways to connect with you and Bisk in the description for the episode. So just thank you so much for hanging out and sharing all that you did.
Thank you, Dustin. I'm going to steal that skills-based revolution. Can I borrow that?
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
The Hired Geek Podcast is a part of the Enrollify Podcast Network. If you like this podcast, chances you'll like all the other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing constantly, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks all designed to empower you to be a better hired professional. Our shows help you find your next big idea and feature a selection of the industry's best as your host. Learn from people like Jamie Hunt, Seth Odell, Dave Kibbolds, and Eddie Francis, as well as so many other of your favorite leaders in higher education. Enrollify is made possible by the support of Element 451, a leading AI-powered, all-in-one student engagement platform helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.